Good evening, I am Lexi Vasilati here with your 8 o'clock news. Next will be the live premiere from the newest 70s film, Jaws. Over to you, Miranda.
Thanks, Lexi. I'm here in the new set of the movie Jaws. It is written by Steven Spielberg, and it's a new American thriller about a great white man-eating shark that eats beachgoers. It's one of the most terrifying movies of 1975. It's one of the greatest movies ever made until the upcoming movies released Star Wars in 1977 and Grease in 1978. Some new TV shows that are on the rise are Charlie's Angels, and it's a show about crime and drama that takes the top of the charts. Another good thriller is Good Times, which is another comedy, not a thriller, and All in the Family. And these are very popular shows that people enjoy. Oh, I gotta keep going.
Miranda, thanks for explaining about the movie. Here at the Jaws premieres, everyone is wearing outfits from flare pants to mini skirts. Other styles are being shown, such as men wearing flare pants as in all types of colors as you see here, like jean pants and striped pants. And now women's mini skirts are above their knees, and also women wore half tops that have tie-dye all over them and even pants. Also, women wore long dresses that fit them, and yeah.
That's 40 seconds.
Here at the premiere, the music is ranging anywhere from the Jackson 5 to the Beatles. Rock and roll and disco has really taken off in the past few years, and the premiere is hosting it all. Disco has really become popular, and bands such as the Jackson 5 have added upbeat and spunky music to the era. The Jackson 5 is a group of 5 siblings who all have really made a path for disco music in the 70s. Other rock bands such as the Beatles, Kiss, and The Who are bands that use highly instrumental music, and they have recently become very popular among the teens of the 70s. Other bands have really inspired along with the hippie movement and just shown about free living and living environmentalistic and humanistic. The vinyl and the 8-track are 2 instruments that teens are beginning to use to listen to their music. However, 8-tracks, the quality is often a little off, and so vinyls have really become popular among the teens.
The Jaws premiere seems to be the perfect scene for all things 70s. Now we're going to talk about Nixon and détente with the Soviet Union. Nixon's presidency was focused on easing Cold War tensions with the Soviet Union. He put this into practice by creating the foreign policy of détente. Détente is defined as easing Cold War tensions. To practice détente, he put in SALT. SALT stands for Strategic Arms Limitation Talks. This is also a policy that helped ease Cold War tensions. This limited nuclear weapons between the Soviet Union and the U.S., creating more peace. Nixon was also the first president to travel to Moscow and make agreements with General Brezhnev, the General Secretary of the Soviet Union. They also met at Summit 2 and Summit 3 to help create more peace. All of these meetings show the commitment that the two countries were willing to make to create peace. Unfortunately, Nixon was involved in the Watergate scandal, which created a halt between making agreements and communications with the Soviet Union. He quit, and Carter was put into office. He created SALT II, which was the same thing as SALT I. And Nixon will always be remembered for his actions. Here's Miranda with more on the Watergate scandal.
This is one of the biggest presidential scandals so far of this century, involving President Nixon. There was a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters of the Watergate office, and investigators found out leading to CREEP, which is Nixon's organization. Nixon's administration tried to cover up his tracks, but it didn't really work with all of our people investigating it. It uncovered multiple abuses, and there's tape recordings found that Nixon refused to give up until they forced him to. And they uncovered that they played dirty tricks, which was bugging offices of political opponents and people who Nixon thought were suspicious, as well as ordering harassment of activist groups and other political figures using the CIA, the FBI, and the IRS. It led to the articles of impeachment towards Nixon, and he later resigned as president.
Well, Nixon did one good thing right, and that was Vietnamization. Everyone was so tired of being in the war, and I think he got sick of battles too. People were tired of rationing, budgeting, and not being with their families. So, he decided to bring all the troops back home. This ended the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War between North Vietnam and South Vietnam because of communism spreading. They were trying to stop communism spreading. Something unusual happened. A baby boom, they called it. A huge increase in kids being born occurred from all the soldiers coming back home from the Vietnam War. So, Cameron, you're a big supporter of Carter. What are your thoughts about it?
I am a big supporter of Jimmy Carter. He was elected in 1977, and he was a humanist president that really focused on the rights of our people in our country and in other countries. Carter promised a new direction to American foreign policy by shaping it around the principles of human rights. He sought to create a post-Cold War foreign policy that changed the fundamental nature of American resolutions with the third world country while still practicing essential American interests. He linked together human rights and our views on foreign policy by making sure that people's rights in our country and our country were still protected while negotiating and talking about issues between both countries. One of his quotes that I really like is, "Because we are free, we can never be indifferent to the fate of freedom elsewhere. Our moral sense dictates a clear-cut preference for those societies which share with us an abiding respect for individual human rights." So obviously, unlike Nixon, he was very against war, he was very against violence, and he really wanted to make sure there was equality among religion, cultures, and political differences in our countries and in other countries. And Kristen, you talked about Camp David Accords, so let's hear some more about that.
Yes, the Camp David Accords were signed by Egyptian President Anwar al-Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin on September 17th of 1978. Egypt was the first Arab nation to actually recognize Israel's right to exist. There were two framework agreements signed at the White House and witnessed by President Jimmy Carter. This was Jimmy Carter's greatest achievement. There were 12 days of intensive talks and negotiations at Jimmy Carter's Camp David in the Krakatoa Mountains of Maryland. In 1974, these were the first two Egypt-Israeli disengagement agreements providing return of portions of the Sinai Peninsula. There were 3 decades of prior hostility. The final peace agreement was signed March of 1979. Sadat and Begin were both jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1978 for their efforts. The initial Egyptian success greatly enhanced Sadat's prestige in the Middle East and provided him an opportunity to seek peace with other nations.
On top of the presidential issues, we were also having environmental issues. OPEC was created in the 1960s and stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. There are many countries involved in OPEC, including Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and many more. During the Arab-Israel War, the United States supported Israel by sending them military supplies when they were in need. This made the Arab members of OPEC very angry and caused them to place an embargo on the United States. An embargo is an official ban on a country's trade or commercial activity. The embargo caused many issues with the United States. Oil prices rose due to shortages and caused a recession. The embargo lasted for about a year until after we discussed with OPEC and decided the embargo shall be lifted. Once the embargo was lifted, the United States could trade once again with countries with oil. The oil crisis caused the United States to realize how dependent they are on oil and how much we really need it.
On top of these environmental issues was 3 Mile Island and Love Canal. 3 Mile Island was part of William T. Love's model city scheme that got abandoned and taken over by Hooker Chemical Company in 1946. They produced many chemicals and needed a place for their waste. The chemicals leaked out of the surface after the neighborhood was built on top of it, which eventually led to birth defects. The residents filed complaint, and this led to a government investigation. The toxification levels were 250 to 500 times higher than deemed safe by the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency. 3 Mile Island was located in Niagara Falls, New York, and Hooker sold the land to the Niagara Board of Education for $1 the same year, under the conditions that Hooker would not be held liable for any damages or deaths caused by the incident. Hooker Chemical Company dumped 22,000 tons of industrial and chemical waste packed in steel drums into the canal, which was located 25 feet under the surface, which at the time was 100% legal. In 1953, Hooker covered this place up with soil and left it, which eventually led to the leaking of chemicals out of the surface and birth defects.
Well, it seems the 70s has brought peace, love, and rock and roll. Hopefully, Carter can bring back some serenity to our homeland and fix the environment.